Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hi everybody, this is Katie Stengel and I'm joined with Mandy Laddish, and this is episode 1 of season 1 of Full Time with Katie. This will be a podcast all about soccer, what's going on in the National Women's Soccer League, NWSL, what's going on World Cup style, and just random other tidbits that pop into my brain. Thanks for tuning in and we'll get started. Joining me is Mandy Laddish. I have known her for about a decade now. I don't know how she's put up with me that long, but, kudos to her. We grew up playing together with youth national teams and actually won the U20 World Cup together over in Japan, so that was a fun time. But Mandy was a standout at Notre Dame and then went on to play at Kansas City, and they actually won the NWSL in 2013.
15.
Oh, 15, yeah.
And 14.
Oh, well, excuse me.
Back to back.
So she's kind of a big deal. But then she's, a little older because she's got these hips of like a grandmother and had some serious complications. So I thought it'd be cool to talk to her a little bit about her comeback story and how exhausting this whole entire process has been. So without further ado, here's Mandy.
Hey, y'all.
Can you give us a little background on your injury?
Yeah, so I first got injured, just to preface it, it's been 2 years since I've played.
2 years?
2 years, yeah. So I first got injured in 2016 in a tackle against Sky Blue and continued to play on it all season, even though that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. Everybody didn't think it was that bad because I got into the tackle, I played the rest of the game, I played the rest of the season. We thought, surely it's not anything serious. Mm-hmm. So eventually by the end of the season, I couldn't really do much, couldn't cut, couldn't jump without tons of pain. So they were like, all right, let's get an MRI, let's see what's going on. So long story short, we didn't end up getting an MRI. We got a CAT scan. I went to a doctor. He told me it was an impingement. And I didn't really trust that doctor. So I went to a new doctor in Nashville who basically invented the impingement surgery. And an impingement is where your femoral head hits the top of your joint capsule. I won't get into the details because it's super boring. I'm basically an expert at this point. Anyway, so I get to that doctor thinking it's going to be a 3-month recovery, 2 weeks on crutches, no problem, I'll be back for the 2017 season. 2 days before surgery, he does the MRI and he's like, well, it looks like you got in a car wreck. It's not going to be a 2-week on crutches. You're going to be on crutches for 8 weeks and it's going to be a 6 to 8 month recovery. So that was the first blow. And then got the surgery the next day, started going through everything, and about 8 weeks later when I got off crutches and started doing stuff, the pain was just almost worse. And so I spent the next year basically trying to rehab it, going to see multiple therapists, going back to the doctor multiple times. Eventually got to a place where I was able to start preseason with Utah. At this point, FC Kansas City had been traded to Utah. A week into preseason, I was like, I just can't do it. I was in so much pain. I couldn't move. I couldn't pass, especially without pain. I was like, I can't do my job. So the doctor that I had before, who I kept going back to, told me, look, like, this is something that happens. I'm not going to touch your hip. Like, I just don't think you're going to play again. I'm sorry. And I was like, sick. Let me just, yeah. So yeah. I'm not going to curse on this.
Yeah.
So eventually I went to Dr. Cooper here in Utah, and he found me a doctor in Vail, Dr. Mark Philippon, who was like, I think I can know what to do. Let's go redo the surgery, and I think I can basically heal you. So I decided to end my season, that season, with the new surgery. I got surgery about a year ago, last April, and he went in and basically redid the whole surgery. So he redid some impingement, so shaved around the bone. He did microfracture on my femoral head to cause some bleeding because I had so much cartilage that had broken off. And then he took a graft of my AT band and made me an entire new labrum. So he said that the first surgery didn't work because I had a bunch of sutures that had come out and embedded in my psoas and some other tendons, and that I just had so much scar tissue develop. So after this surgery, things went a lot smoother. I was running when I was supposed to be running. I was playing when I was supposed to be playing. When I started kicking, I had a little pain, but it wasn't as bad. And eventually I made my way back. And I'm doing it. I'm here.
She's back, y'all.
I'm doing it. I did it. So 2 years later, it was a really long process, and that was a really summed up story, even though it was like probably 5 minutes long, but that was the summarized version of it. So
wow. Almost as long as 937 days.
Yeah, that was the last time I played, 937 days from our first game.
She's clearly good at math.
Yeah. I also have Google and a calculator.
Oh, that too. Well, okay. Resourceful too.
Yeah.
Okay, so besides just like the physical pain, how did you handle that mentally? Because that is so long to be away from the game that you've dedicated your entire life to playing and training.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I handled it well mentally. I kind of did a spiral, and I think that my inability to handle my mental stress probably didn't help my physical recovery. I spiraled pretty deeply into a depression because I didn't realize, but my identity was so wrapped up in soccer and my self-worth. And now that I was no longer a soccer player and getting those endorphin releases from the game, and also just the satisfaction of winning and the competitiveness and being in that environment, like that's all gone. So I just felt so lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't really know what I liked. I feel like my personality is different off the field than it is on the field. So I was just sort of confused and lost. So I did a lot of soul searching and spent a lot of time untangling my self-worth from soccer, which wasn't easy. And there were obviously some really bad days, but some good days as well. And I had some really great people helping me. Like Becca Moros has been there with me the whole time, and she's really been someone that understands what I'm going through and has been able to talk me through it, both the physical aspects of it and the mental aspects. So I'm really thankful for her.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's huge to have such a great support staff, and I think it's like vital to go through the recovery process with. So I'm glad you had somebody. Speaking of the identity portion, I know as a professional soccer player, we always go into training and kind of judge our day based on how we perform, and especially in games. When you're doing well, scoring goals, or defending well, life is great. And as soon as that's taken away, like not even you're just playing poorly, but like you can't even train or do anything.
Yeah,
you kind of like step back and you're like, oh, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, how do I judge if I have a good day or not? I mean, besides like great weather or whatever. Like, how do you actually like find your identity?
Yeah, so I developed a couple hobbies. One of them was painting. I really like to read, but mostly it was just defining who I am as a character. So figuring out what characteristics I wanted to embody, whether it was being kind and a good friend, being a hard worker in whatever I'm doing, whether that be sports or something else, being dedicated and loyal, and just various other things. And then finding new things that I really like to do. Like I said earlier, painting. I love going on walks. I love being outside. I love dogs, obviously. I was basically the team dog sitter, which was the best. So just finding certain things that will continue to be a part of my life forever, and that I can continue to work on and use to identify myself. That isn't something that is... what's the word I'm looking for?
So entwined with soccer and...
Yeah, so not something that is going to end eventually.
Right.
So something that
more long-lasting.
Is more long-lasting.
Right. I mean, it's true. I mean, our careers are only so long, and I've seen some people play for, 3 months. Some people play until they're... How old is Becca?
34.
34, yeah,
Barney's
same.
38.
We've got some older players on our team.
Oldies.
And they could still move and still kick it, and it's amazing how they've been able to, preserve themselves so long and enjoy this game. But, you never know when it's going to be over.
Right. Yeah, and I think I was one of the lucky ones. Like, I'm not the first person to go through this struggle. It's something that's not really talked about. And, there's not a lot of people to talk you through it. And as soon as you're back playing again, you kind of forget all that struggle, because it's so easy to just be back and absorbed in all of the same way of thinking. You've worked all this time to untangle your self-worth, and then all of a sudden you go back and you're not as good, and your world is over. You have the worst day ever because you had a bad training, and it's like, what? I thought I was better than this. But, so I consider myself lucky. I think part of it was hard work that I got back, but part of it was just luck, and some people, some athletes don't have the same fate that I did. So,
Right. Especially when you have doctors telling you, sorry, there's nothing I can do. You're never going to play again.
Yeah.
How did you keep some kind of mental sanity? I know you said you spiraled a bit just because of how difficult the situation was, but...
Yeah. Well, at one point I was just like, no, I'm going to play. And as soon as he said that, I was like, okay. But I just didn't believe him. You know, there was always a part of me that believed I would do it. And I think I just held on to that belief. And I'm just pretty stubborn. I'm a Taurus, obviously, so I'm stubborn. So I think I was just determined and adamant that I was going to make it back. And if not, I was going to go down trying, you know. I was going to do everything I possibly could, because I knew that in 10 years, if I had just given up and been like, you know what, I'm just going to go work and not try because I'm going to save my body, which maybe could have been one of the smarter things to do, I would just regret it. This is the only time we have to play, you know. We can't go back and try soccer again when we're 40.
Right.
You know, I can do anything else
Right.
after I retire for the rest of my life. So this was it for me, and I know this is what I've wanted to do my whole life. This is where I'm the happiest, and this is where I feel the most comfortable in regards to community and people that I love and understand, and vice versa. I think this is just the place for me, and so I'm happy that I pushed through and said, screw you, Mr. Dr. Man.
Exactly. Stick to the man. No, I think it was incredible. You guys, I don't think as many listeners actually got to see it firsthand, but Mandy crushed it in the preseason last year, and like everyone was like, wow, she's back. And after being out so long, it was so impressive to still see like so much drive, and like you could just see how much work she's put in off the field. And then she had to go through the entire process again, and I just couldn't imagine like mentally having to handle that. And was there any type of, I don't know, thoughts going through your head when you first had to like go back and be like, oh, we're doing this all over again?
I think the hardest part for me was training by myself. I was like, God, I don't want to have to train by myself every day again, you know. And that's something that's hard. You don't realize how nice it is to have someone telling you what to do. So that's where I was like, man, I really just don't want to have to do this again. But this time around, it was different because I had a lot of people in this organization that were helpful. I had a lot of people at my disposal, whether they were trainers, PTs. And so after being so doubtful about whether or not I would return or not, and then being pretty certain and having a doctor that was pretty certain that I would, I feel like I developed a new drive to come back. You know, at this point, it was like, okay, will I be as good again? Hopefully. But you know, I was like, I am going to play again because this is what I want to do. So within those 2 years, even though I was like, this sucks, I missed out on so much. Like, I have so much catching up to do. I just wasn't ready to quit. You know, I'd rather be here and be fighting and just keeping my head above water playing again than just quitting altogether, you know?
How great was that feeling when you got to step on the field at our home opener?
It was so great. I just felt like a weight was taken off my shoulders. Like, oh my gosh, I did it. I'm here. I just felt so much relief. You know, obviously I have a ton of work to do still, and I have, you know, a lot of rehab and stuff still going on, but it's just so nice to be back. You know, you feel like you're at home again. You feel comfortable. This is where I thrive. This is where I'm the happiest. So it's like being in mud and like trying to swim up to the top of mud and like keep getting pulled down by a gator or something, and then keep swimming up and finally get your little head out. And you get a little rope and you're like pulling yourself up. I'd say I'm like half, the mud has still got me a little, but I'm like almost out. Okay. I'm like so dang close.
So you're like a swamp dweller.
I'm a swamp dweller for sure.
That's a word. Yeah, you could tell she's from Kansas City, everybody.
Yeah. We don't have gators there.
Oh, okay. Well, she's thinking she's in Florida visiting me. But anyways, no, I think it's been an amazing journey to watch, and I think the biggest thing I've taken away from just, you know, watching Mandy grow throughout like 10 years has been she's had a career that has a lot of highs, but obviously these are some of the lowest lows, and still maintaining that like strong character where she's going to be a good friend. She's going to, you know, give 100% whenever she can. What do you think was like, did you have any type of, you know, rituals or things you developed besides just like reading books or something that like kept you going, like any type of mentality?
Yeah, I started meditating a lot and really listening to my thoughts and the way I was talking to myself and the way I was thinking about stuff. And I think I became more spiritual, and I started really focusing on others and what I could do for them. And I think just being able to take myself away from my own thoughts and focus on other people really helped. So yeah, that was really, I think, one of the things that helped me the most. And I continue to do it now, but I think I really turn to that when I'm struggling. And painting was something that really helped me too, because that's one of the only things that I can do where, you know, when you just get lost when you're playing soccer, you don't remember any of the problems you had walking onto the field. You're playing, you're there in the game, nothing else matters. You literally couldn't think of anything if someone asked you to. Right. And that's kind of how it is when I'm painting. So I think when I really needed a place to go, I would just start painting and get lost, and that provided a lot of solace for me.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome to find another source of happiness.
Yeah.
And still get that like unconscious focus. I feel like we all strive for that in the game, so it's cool to like finally be able to see.
Yeah.
What about going through injury? You kind of feel like you're by yourself, but like I feel like in our organization, at least, we had several other long-term injuries.
Yeah.
Do you think that saying is true, like misery loves company, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think me and Alex Arlett were injured together for 2 years, and honestly, that girl kept me alive. Like, she is hilarious. And it was nice to just have a friend, because you lose the community so much. Like, nobody does it on purpose. You just aren't around as much, and so you don't hang out with people as much. That's just how life is. That's how humans are. Yeah. And so having Alex there, someone to talk to, someone who understood, someone that was around all the time, and who could make me laugh and go on adventures with me was pretty important. So I would say she was another one that was pretty important in my recovery, and that she kept me feeling like a normal human, not just someone wishing to be in another place than I was. So I think she kind of helped me stay present and enjoy what I could enjoy even though I was injured.
Right. What is it? Obviously it is, but how hard was it to, like, you're not able to train, but you still kind of have to go to training and be around that environment where everyone else is able to train and play, and you have to kind of just sit there and watch training and watch games, and still, like, yes, you want your teammates to do well and you want them to, like, succeed, but it's so hard to just watch what they can all enjoy and you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it would be like, how should I describe this? It's like if you're a little kid and everyone's at a birthday party and there's this massive chocolate cake and you love chocolate cake more than anything, but you're lactose intolerant, so you just have to sit there and look at the chocolate cake and not eat it. Or just for whatever reason you're not allowed to eat the cake. So it's just like tempting you. It's almost torturous. So for me, there was a period where I just couldn't come to training because it's just so much extra stress. And when you're seeing it, it's right there in front of you. You know, it's like watching your wife or your husband cheat on you right in front of you.
Wow.
You know,
that's so much worse than chocolate cake.
Yeah, that's a better example. I think. I was keeping it PG, but no, let's get real with
this.
Yeah, so yeah, it just wasn't, that's the hardest part, honestly. And being it and trying to restrain yourself, that's, I think, when you do too much, is you're like wanting to be out there so bad with your teammates. You're seeing them do all this stuff, so then you're over here doing your own stuff, training on the side, and then you do too much because you got all this energy pent up, and you're just trying to catch them. And, you know, as athletes, we tend to push ourselves because that's how we got here. It's hard work. Right. But with an injury, you can't push yourself, because if you push yourself too hard, you re-injure yourself, which is what I did the first time. I just pushed too hard, tried to go through the pain. I'm like, I'll be fine. Yep. I'm great. But your body's like, no, ma'am. Yeah. You better chill. So I've worked a lot on relaxing techniques, stress management, still working on it. Not my forte. But you know what? It's a process.
It is a process. And I think I totally agree. It's so tough to have an injury and you have this just innate character where you're going to work so hard and suddenly you have to like reevaluate and like really monitor your load. Yeah. Otherwise you lose all that progress.
Yeah. You have to work hard not to work hard when you're injured.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes my brain hurt.
Yeah,
that's
about
good.
That. That's going to be my new motto. People ask me, like, what was your motto? Work hard to not work hard.
Yeah, work smart.
Keep yourself, work smarter, not harder.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Typical cliche. Yeah. So you were talking a little bit about how when you aren't a part of the team, it's tough to still, you know, be yourself. How hard was it to maintain some kind of, like, community feel where you still felt a part of the team, even though your biggest contribution on the field wasn't there?
Right. Well, I think everyone is aware that you lose a little bit of something when you're not there on the field with the team. There's little inside jokes. There's just that connection that you get from playing with one another and training with one another and struggling together and winning together and blah, blah, blah. So everyone's pretty aware that happens. So people are usually good about reaching out to you and like talking to you when you're around, because everyone on this team is so great. So, you know, it was a lot of times reaching out to people, inviting them over for dinner, but, you know, at times you just have to let it go and say, you know what, it's not about me. You know, if people go and do something because they plan to do something at training and you weren't invited because you just weren't around, you just have to learn to let it go. You know, so I think for me, it was more about reaching out to people and making sure that they knew that even though I wasn't there, I was still supportive of them, and, you know, vice versa. So, yeah, but it's harder than it sounds. You know, it does get hard at times, and you can't really do much. You know, so especially if you're on crutches for 8 weeks. So it's just a lot of having people over and keeping your community whatever you can. And luckily, we live like glorified college students and all live in the same area.
Seriously.
So it's not as hard as
It's true. It's very nice to live so close. We could walk to each other's houses.
I was thinking about it. It was like when you're a kid and you get so excited to walk over to your friend's house. So we have like 40 friends here.
Exactly. Oh, it's so nice. Yeah. Okay, so like I know NWSL, they're getting better. We're getting, you know, higher wages and things like that, but it's still tough. Like as a rookie, what are they making now? 15,000?
Yeah, we made 6 our rookie year.
That's sick. So you can almost afford ramen.
Yeah.
After you pay for your,
the poverty
housing.
level in 2014 was like $12,000 for an individual, and we made $6,000.
Yeah.
I almost applied for food stamps, but I didn't because I thought I would get in trouble with the league.
I think
Didn't want bad press, but I'm saying it now.
So, yes, the league has come a long way. Still has much further to go.
Right.
And I definitely think that's a huge problem in a lot of women's sports. And
Totally.
I think it's a sad reality that we live in where we work so hard and we finally reached the highest point of our career at a professional level, and yet you almost were better off in college.
Yeah, we're not rewarded the same way men are for men of our caliber.
Right. And granted, we don't have the exact audience or, you know, sponsorship support yet. That's a word and a half. But it's still far behind where it needs to be.
Sure.
So how did you, you know, knowing that you're hardly making any dollars, forcing yourself still to go to rehab and go through the entire process when you see all your other friends having these like high paying jobs that you could easily have gotten yourself?
Well, I think for me, money ain't the motivation.
It's good. It's good. There's another catchphrase by Mandy. Put it on a t-shirt.
So, well, it would be pretty great, and maybe, what's the word I want? Fair for us to make money. It's just, people always say, if you're living your dream job, it doesn't matter how much money you make. And that's so true, right? Like, this is what we wanted to do our whole lives. You think about it, we started playing soccer when we're 3. You're thinking about being a pro athlete, but every decision we've made from children into adulthood has basically come to fruition in this moment. You know, that's what we're doing now, is living out our dreams. So I don't think any amount of money could make me give that up. You know, I don't think if someone was like, Mandy, I'll pay you $2 million to never play soccer again, it would be tempting.
Yeah, you'd have to think about it for a second.
I'd have to think about it, but I would be like, is that money going to make me happy? No, it's not. And am I going to be happy sitting at some desk job? Because that's realistically what I would be doing. I majored in marketing.
She's a genius.
Yeah.
She won't say it.
Brilliant. Majored in marketing, and I just would be sitting there every day thinking, man, if I just would have worked a little harder or tried a little longer, I could be playing, you know. And I don't want to be one of those girls that retires and then really wants to come back but can't come back because it's hard to do that, you know.
Right, very hard.
So I don't think that money matters to me.
I think it's also tough because we say, you know, we're not motivated by money, and I think it's great for our league, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if you had unlimited funds, or at least much more, you know, available funds, would you have been able to afford an MRI out of pocket?
Absolutely.
Would you have been able to afford better, you know, treatment where you could go to whatever trainer, rehab facility, PT?
Yeah.
I think it's just so sad that, like, that's the reality now.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I didn't get an MRI in the beginning of the 2016 season when I first got injured was because the team only had a certain allotment and they didn't want to use it because they were like, oh, you're still playing, you're fine, you don't need that MRI, you know, we need to save the money. which at the time was like whatever, but now it's absolutely ridiculous. You know, we are putting our bodies through so much stress that we are almost certainly going to have some kind of complications later in life, but we won't have the monetary expenditures. Is that the word I want?
Sure, we'll go with that.
I don't think that's the right, but whatever. We won't have enough money to deal with it in the future because we can't save like men can. So, you know, a lot of people have other jobs. I have another job to deal with it and offset disposable income a little bit, which helps. But yeah, it's a struggle. And I don't think people realize how little we make. I think that they think we make maybe what the WNBA does, but we're not even close. You know, we couldn't, if we can hardly support ourselves if it wasn't for the way Deloy and this organization treated us. Right. So he's been a huge part in growing the women's game, and hopefully that other clubs will start to follow in his footsteps, and eventually, you know, more and more people will get involved in women's soccer and see it for what it is, which is a fantastic, entertaining product, and start coming to the games. But I think that there's so many other factors that go into that really need to be exploited.
I agree. I think shout out to our ownership and Deloy Hansen. He brought in Utah Royals after Mandy had mentioned that Kansas City, the team she was playing for, ended up folding, and they basically just picked him up and dropped him off in Salt Lake City, and now
they put us on a train and said, bye, lady.
Said, adios. Welcome to Salt Lake City.
Utah.
Very different culture, very different environment, but as soon as we stepped here, it was like, wow, you're a professional athlete. Mm-hmm. You have housing taken care of. You have, you know, meals. Facilities, the same facilities like the men's would have. You have breakfast and lunch, and, you know, you're just taken care of in ways that we, you know, people take for granted, I think maybe now because we're just so used to it now. But before, it's like, wait, we have to do our own laundry. We have to, you know, buy our own cleats, and there's just so many little expenses.
You don't even have a locker room to change into.
Right.
We bring our cleats. It was like club. You would bring your cleats to practice, take it home with you, wash your jersey at home,
right,
come back. You know, it's just the amenities you have in college, you don't even get close to in the professional sports unless you play for a team like Utah Royals.
Right. So we're incredibly lucky. Wow, I cannot speak. Incredibly lucky to be here in this organization. And unfortunately, there's still clubs in the NWSL that are not as, you know, well funded and well taken care of, and that standard definitely needs to be raised. And I think, as a league in general, obviously we can always, you know, get better. And I think there's certain standards like medical care that need to get better. You can see all over the league. There's girls who have minor things or could have been prevented, like had this long-term injury been prevented by just like an earlier MRI, or, you know, more willingness to invest a little extra money in their health. And it's sad because that's our career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, here's a question for you. What do you think is like, if you could pick one moment in your rehab, what do you think was like the hardest thing to get through mentally?
I think the being on crutches part was the hardest. For 8 weeks, mostly because you are so reliant upon others to do things for you. Little things like make your food or carry your plate from the kitchen to the table. It's really hard to be self-sufficient. Right. And I'm someone that loves being able to do things on my own. I can be really independent. I love being around people, but I really like to do stuff for myself. You know, I was never coddled as a child. My parents always made me do, you know, my own dishes, do my own laundry, do stuff like that, help out around the house. So you lose a little bit of your individuality in that sense as well. So, and then you just can't move. For instance, I couldn't really sit up straight because it would have too much pressure on my hip. So I would either have to be laying down or leaning forward. So most of the time I would have to be leaning down. So I couldn't go out and do stuff. Eventually I did get a wheelchair, which was awesome because people would wheel me around on walks, which was the best. But yeah, the 8 weeks on crutches was definitely the hardest part because I was basically immobile. And you go from working out as hard as you can every day to being on crutches and immobile. There is some chemical imbalances that start to happen in your brain. You know, you don't get an endorphin release. Your body's like, why are you not moving me? So you go through, it's more than just not being able to move. It's probably some chemical reactions going on in your brain that are like, we are poofed.
Right, agreed. And then plus, I remember talking to a couple of the girls as we were going through injuries, and I think another thing is your fitness, and you have worked so hard to get fit and stay fit, and then suddenly you're hurt, and it's like you just got to accept you're going to be fat.
Yeah.
Not fat, but just not fit.
Or just lose all your muscle. My legs got so skinny, and I don't know why. One day I went to buy jeans, and Becca was like, why did you get that size? Like, you're going to get bigger. And I was like, no, I'm going to get smaller because I'll be working out. And she was like, okay. I tried to put these jeans on the other day, and it was like, I couldn't even get them over my thighs.
Thunder thighs.
But I'm like pretty skinny, but I was like, damn, this is ridiculous. So yeah, you just lose muscle, you lose your fast twitch fibers, and you're like, oh my gosh, you just can't think about that pill climb that it is. I feel like just now I'm starting to get fit, and it's been a year. So
oof. Yeah, it's a climb.
It's a climb.
Not to mention we're in altitude here. All right, Miley, let's simmer down. Yeah, altitude here. How has that been? Just add that to the number of things to overcome.
I like to say things like, oh, it's harder to recover in the altitude because your blood oxygen levels are lower, and therefore your muscles don't get as much blood oxygen, and blah, blah, blah. You don't regenerate as quickly. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I tell myself to make me feel like I'm more and more tough. You know?
Right. Yeah, you're definitely tough.
But the altitude has been really interesting to adjust to. It was, it was pretty hard. The first couple of weeks of preseason, you feel awful, and they just keep running you and training you, and you're just dying, and you go to sleep at like 7 p.m. and wake up at 9 a.m.
Do it all over again. So, but it's been great. I think it'll give us a tiny bit of an advantage when we go other places, and therefore a little bit more confidence, which is great. Right. So, and I feel more fit than I might if I was training in a lower altitude place. So I think it's cool. And Utah's beautiful. I love Utah, the mountains and stuff. So I think there's lots of benefit to being in altitude. Yeah. I think we're, again, just so lucky to be here and in such a beautiful spot where there's tons of hikes and things to do outside of soccer, where if we're ever struggling, defining ourselves just by our sport, there's other outlets out there. And now that you're actually healthy, you can go and explore those.
Heck yeah.
All right, but like wrapping up, what's like one takeaway message? A lot of like players going through injury, especially like younger ones who aren't as, mentally strong right now as you've had to become. What would be their one takeaway point you'd tell them?
My number one thing I tell people when they get injured is to remember to be nice to yourself, because the only person that will be with you through every doctor's appointment, through every hardship, through every up, through every down is yourself. And if you're not kind to yourself, if you're not listening to your body, it's not going to go well. So the nicer you are to yourself, the more that you work on, having positive thoughts and thinking positively and recognizing the little victories that happen, like getting off crutches and getting to walk again and getting to run again, and allowing yourself to enjoy those moments instead of striving to be somewhere else down the road. Be present with yourself and be kind to yourself, and it'll go much, much smoother.
Especially coming back from injury, be kind to yourself, Mandy, with allowing yourself some time and space to get back to where you want to be.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, I know. She's on it though.
I'm working on it. It's a decision every day to be kind to yourself. You can't just say, I'm going to be nice to myself. You have to say it every time you have a negative thought, which is sometimes multiple times a day. You have good days and bad days, and got to keep fighting.
Yeah, you was kind, you was smart, you was important.
Yep.
Love that one.
Yeah.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
This wraps up my first little, podcasty thing, episode 1 of Full Time. Thank you, Mandy, for joining me.
Yeah.
Mandy, what is your YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever they're calling it? What's your tag?
Instagram is at @mladdish.
Laddish.
Twitter is Mandy Laddish, so just type my name in and you'll find it.
Search Mandy Laddish for all kinds of...
If you Google me, you'll see some pictures of me and Steng.
Oh yeah, we've gone back way back.
Baby Mandy, baby Steng.
If only Mandy had my fashion sense. No, you guys, she's an icon. You gotta watch out. Follow along with her story. We have a game this Friday against Chicago. Be sure to tune in on Yahoo Sports to check out Mandy and hopefully myself get to kick balls around.
Definitely yourself.
Doing what we like to do. So yeah, that wraps it up. This is Katie Stengel with Wisp Sports, and just wanted to, thank you guys for tuning in and hope to hear from you soon.
You stay classy, Salt Lake City.
Stay classy, Salt Lake City. Catch you later. Bye.